welcome back to the Hallmark East podcast. I am your host, Kaycee, today, and I am joined by author and our new friend, Anna Gomez. Thank you so much for coming on to the podcast.
Kaycee, thanks for having me. It's so nice to be here.
It is so nice to connect with you, and I have to tell you, I personally am so excited to meet you because you're Filipino.
No, me too. Did you grow up here?
I did. I was born here in the States.
So they did. So you grew up with your aunt and your cousins, I guess?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
So I did grow up with like my cousins and my aunts and uncles and all of that. Yeah. So there's just that connection of like being Filipino, you know?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Something to be proud of, right?
Yes, absolutely. And also just because I feel like for me personally, I'm not a sciencey person. I am very much more imaginative. I like the creative outlets like this. I was an English major. I love writing. And so it was always a hard thing for me growing up hearing like, oh, you should be a nurse or you should be a lawyer or an engineer. So, I mean, I'm just really excited to know that there are, people such as yourself that are Filipino and that, you're in a different type of environment in the writing world. So that really excites me.
Yeah, it's a very interesting world, let me tell you.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't go to school for writing. So obviously I'm in finance, right? So I have that full-time job.
Okay.
So I'm the CFO of an ad agency. So that's my day job. And it's just heavily finance. So yeah, I didn't go to school to write. I didn't have any formal education in writing. I just loved to write. So
wow.
Yeah. So I mean, it's been a really cool journey because it's so different, two different worlds.
Yeah, for sure. Then can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and just how you started that journey? Because like you said, you did not go to school for writing. And I don't know, was it just a passion that you just went for or did somebody encourage you? I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, sure. So I met my husband in the Philippines. He's Filipino, but he grew up in Indiana, and he went there for the summer, never wanted to come back. So we met at the same office that I worked in, graduating right after graduating from college. So I didn't go to school here. I went to school in Manila. Mm-hmm. And we moved here, 25 years ago, and I started my career in accounting. Worked in different agencies, worked in different industries and companies, and ended up where I am now. But we raised, so I'm a mom. I have 3 kids. They're grown. And just to show you how old I am, I qualified to get a COVID shot. Oh. I'm in that age bracket. So they're grown. One's a nurse. One is in advertising, and I have a 20-year-old that's going to St. Louis University. So,
okay.
So I've been married 32 years. And just living in the States, you know how it is, very different from the Philippines, focused on our career and raising our children. So we did that most of the years. And then 10 years ago, my mom passed away suddenly. And I was here in the States and so focused on my life here and on raising the kids and, building a life for us that I hardly went home to the Philippines to visit her. And so when I finally decided to take time off and actually go home, she had passed away like 3 days before I arrived.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And it was so traumatic. So I came back here, immersed myself in my career, just kept working. But, I don't know. I was traumatized in such a way that you don't really know that you are, but you know you're going through this thing. And so I wanted to write about her. So I wrote my first book about her. It's funny because it was at the time when E.L. James was just coming up with 50 Shades of Grey. And there was this whole surge of indie books, indie book authors. Mm-hmm. So I went to a book signing once in Chicago by myself. and started mingling with readers and meeting a couple of authors, and then became friends with a lot of them. And then they kind of encouraged me, hey, you know what, if you have something to say, just write about it. And so that's what I did. So I wrote my first book, and self-published it. And then while writing about my mom, I realized I had such an interesting life, because
Mm-hmm.
I had dated a guy for 8 years and married a guy I met for 6 months. So there was
Oh,
this, yeah,
wow.
there was
That's
this whole
very,
drama of the ex for 8 years and the new guy I just met at work. And so I incorporated that story into my book.
mhm.
Um, and I changed my name. Two reasons: because there were no Asian or Filipino authors that I knew of at that time, and I wanted my
Mhm.
name to sound a little bit Caucasian. So I chose
Mhm.
my first name, Christine, and then I did an acronym of my kid's name. So Christine Bray, that was my pen name. I
Okay.
wasn't comfortable, um, with Anna Gomez at that time.
Mhm.
So I self-published my first book, and then somebody reached out to me on Facebook and said, "Oh my gosh, I loved your book, and that's what I'm going through with my husband, and I'm gonna open this Facebook group for you, and we're gonna just chat about your book." And so that woman was actually from England, and I still remember her name's Yvonne, and so that following just grew. And then
Wow.
people were like, wow, we didn't think Isabel in the first book had any closure. She's still pining for that 8-year guy. So why don't you close it up? So I wrote the second book, which is the
Okay.
sequel to the first book. And the rest is history.
Mhm.
Every stage in my life, I've written a book.
Yeah.
Midlife crisis, the kids, work. I've written a book, and I ended up having 6 books.
Wow.
Yeah. Picked up an agent probably, not probably, during after the third book. So I self-published 2 books, and then
Mhm.
the third was, I got an agent. I was approached by an agent, who I don't regret working with. I still work with her now and love her to death. And then the fourth book, was, optioned for film. Um, and then I just thought, oh, well, this is something that's going to be a
Mhm.
permanent part of my life. So,
Right. Yeah, that is incredible. First of all, I mean, my condolences on losing your mother. I mean, I kind of have an idea of what that's like because my grandmother, now she lived a very long life, but my parents, they just didn't have time to go back home very often. We went when I was 5. We went again when I was 14. My mom went again the following year because she just realized how homesick she was. So she went by herself. But my dad never went back home. And the year he was planning to go, because he started to realize that his mother was not doing
yeah,
as well. Um, she ended up passing away that summer. So I know that was very hard just because, when you live here in the States, it can be very expensive to go to the Philippines and you want to make it a worthwhile trip.
yes,
And
yes,
then, just with life here, we're so busy and we're so on the go all the time. I know my
yeah,
parents were. I mean, I know that's a lot of people. So yeah, I can empathize with that situation, with that there. But what a beautiful thing to take that time in your life and just turn it into a writing passion.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
you know?
And it's been great therapy for me. It's I travel a lot for work. I
Mhm.
used to really travel like every week. And go different places. So I've incorporated that in my story. So I've been able to take readers with me,
Mhm.
with my experiences, whatever country I visit, whatever culture, I experience. So it's just been great. It's just been great taking the readers on the same
Mhm.
journey that I'm going on.
Yeah, for sure. And then one thing you had mentioned is that you had a pen name of Christine Bray,
Yeah.
to make it a little bit more Caucasian. My question for you is, what challenges did you have or did you experience as a Filipino writer, especially feeling the need to change your identity, I guess you can say, in that pen name?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't very apparent. I had writer friends who I don't think cared what my culture was or anything, but it was more, it was more when I moved here, and you probably weren't born yet, but I was here in the 90s, and nobody cared where you came from. Like, nobody wanted to listen to your story. It was all, you were always trying to fit in.
Mm-hmm.
You're always trying, your kid, my kids, my big regret, the kids stopped speaking Tagalog when they moved here, and because I was trying to assimilate them to this culture, and my husband, who grew up in Indiana, doesn't speak it, so I wasn't able to like have it at the home, which everyone regrets at this point, because knowing languages is an asset wherever you go, wherever you work. And we were just so busy assimilating them into this culture. And they went through, I saw them in high school, in grade school, go through different things, different motions where they felt different. They would come home, and just say they felt different. They'd go to parties, and they would feel different. And so I saw that, and I when I was writing books, I didn't want that difference, because writing is writing is writing. You can write about anything in the world, and it's the same. Love is universal. Like, everyone goes through heartbreak. It doesn't matter who you are. So that was kind of the point that I was trying to make. And then I'm just going to answer a question I know you're going to ask, is like, what made me decide to use my real name? It's because as I grew in my career and I became an executive, I started championing different platforms. So now I started championing diversity and inclusion. I started talking about how a business is better by knowing different cultures. A business is healthier. A business, I'm in advertising. So it's different cultures and different ways of thinking that make a good ad, or convince consumers to buy a good product. And so then I thought, you know what? And I was also hiding it at work, and it was stressful because friends knew, but my boss didn't know. And it was just like, you know what? This is who I am. I have to bring myself to the table, my whole self. And so I just, I decided, the next book I'm going to write, and clean romance books, something I can really give to everyone, and not be self-conscious about work or being professional at work or whatever. I thought, it's time to just use my real name.
Yeah, that resonates a lot with me personally too, because again, there are very few Filipinos or even Asians really in that writing space. And then, with us being more, like, even more of a minority, and then feeling different, because I could totally relate to your children, kind of feeling like, oh, well, this is different. Nobody's necessarily treating me differently, like in a mean sort of way. Like, it wasn't like everybody, but I definitely felt different. And then on top of that, feeling different in the space of, my family and their ideas of success and stuff. And I'm like, I am secretly writing stories here in my bedroom. But yeah, you bring such a great point of being true to who you are, and like being able to grow into that. And so yeah, I really appreciate that. That's very encouraging for sure.
We just want to take a break from the show just to have a little check-in before we go on in the show. So we actually want to talk about our sponsor for this week, BetterHelp. In 2021, it's definitely okay to talk about your mental health, about your happiness. Humans aren't meant to keep everything inside. It can make us sick, and therapy helps. But what is therapy exactly? It's whatever you want it to be. Maybe you're not feeling motivated right now. Maybe you need some tools to help. Maybe you've got stress, insecurity, problems in your relationship, are not dealing well with things going on in your life. And that's what therapy can be.
And whatever you need, don't be ashamed, because normal humans struggle and they start to feel better, and that's okay. It's good to start to feel better because you deserve to be happy. And now you don't have to worry about finding an in-person therapist near you to help. BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers you video, phone, or a live chat session with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to.
The good thing is BetterHelp is much more affordable than in-person therapy. and you can start communicating with your therapist in under 48 hours. Join millions of people who are seeing what therapy is really about. See if it's for you, because you are your greatest asset.
So this podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp, and Hallmarkies podcast listeners can get 10% off of their first month of Better at betterhelp.com/Hallmarkies. That's betterhelp.com/Hallmarkies.
Have you read Moments yet? Not yet, right?
I have not, but I just ordered it on my Kindle.
Okay.
So I'm very, very excited.
You need to text me when you read it, because there's all about lechon and things that
Oh, yes.
And when Chris was doing the audiobook, he's like, my gosh, you wrote all these like words in there that I had to read. Gosh, it was so funny. But it was
that's so
fun writing that. It was fun being proud of the culture.
Yeah. And that one is set in Hawaii, correct?
It's set in Hawaii, but Hawaii is mostly Filipinos.
Yeah.
They came here for the plantations so there's all that history that we put in the book.
Yeah, that's very exciting. Well, let's go ahead and start talking about your book that's coming out.
Yeah.
At the time of this recording, it hasn't released yet, but by the time this releases, it will be out. The book came out on March 9th, and it is Moments Like This. You wrote it with Chris Palaha, who is a big friend of our podcast here. We've actually interviewed him, I think, a few times. It wasn't me; it was my podcast counterpart, Rachel. And he's so delightful. But can you tell us a little bit more about the book? I mean, I'm really excited.
Yeah. So, it's a romance. It's a story about, a girl named Andy who is so focused on her career. And certain setbacks happen in her life, and she's invited by her friend to spend some time in Hawaii. So she doesn't know that her friend actually owns a coffee plantation. And so she gets there and she's all businesslike and all, obsessed about work. And she says, you know what? Oh, I can, help this plantation thrive. And so she's focused on that. And then obviously she meets this guy named Warren. And so he's from Hawaii. So he tells her, you know what, I want to take you around. How long are you going to be here? She doesn't know how long she's going to be there because she needs to go back to Chicago. And he just says, okay, so I'm going to take you on these Moments tours for every Friday. Let's meet and I'll take you somewhere in Hawaii that you've never been to before. No questions asked. Let's not talk about our past. Let's just enjoy each other while you're here. Because it was this big thing of she didn't know when she was leaving and all that. And so obviously, love develops, and, you get to see, if they get to see who they really are, like, learn more about each other. And as they do, then,
Yeah. Oh,
so, yeah. And, as I mean, Chris was there for a series. I think he lived in Oahu.
Yeah.
So he was able to just bring so much color to that story, just bring so much just color and vividness to like the scenes and everything, because he'd been there and he'd experienced everything we'd written about. So it was a really good, it was good timing for me to find him.
Yeah. So how did you find Chris?
So we found each other, or he found me in a way, because I was, I had written 6 books and and my career was taking off, and I kind of wanted to take a break. And so I was telling my agent, and this was during the beginning of COVID, like, I'm going to take a break. I need to focus on my career and my job. And she was like, everyone's home now. People are looking for content. Like, now is the time to like do something. Let's do something to sell some of your books to like Netflix, or, because they're good content and everyone's asking me to submit content, blah, blah, blah. And so she said, but you know what? Why don't you write something for Hallmark? And I was like, yeah. I'm like, what? A guy in plaid meets a girl, they fight, they break up, and they get back together. She's like, how did you know? She's like, here, let me give you this matrix. And she gives me this actual spreadsheet that's got the Hallmark formula. And she's like, this is what you have to write. You're right. This is what you have to write. So I'm like, after making fun of it for a long time, because I'm just like, I'm not making fun because of Hallmark, but because if you read my stories, everyone cries. They call me, I'm crying, or it's full of angst, and it's about catharsis and tragedy and loss and all that. And and I'm like, it might be fun to write something that's just so light and just so straightforward. And so I'm on the board of Hugh O'Brien Youth Organization, and the president or the CEO of that board said to me, I said to him, do you know of anyone that I can talk to? Because he lived in LA. I'm like, the big shots in LA, why don't you see if you can get me in a meeting with someone so I could pitch my books. And he said, oh my gosh, my neighbor, Chris Palaha, 2 houses down from me, he's a Hallmark guy, and maybe I can get him to talk to you. So one day I get a text from my friend Javier, and he says, guess who I saw? I saw Chris playing football with his sons outside, and I told him about you, and he's interested in calling you to talk about your books. And so I put the phone down, and I'm like, Chris Palaha's not going to call me.
Yeah.
Right? And then I go back home, and that night I get an email from Chris, hey, Javier mentioned you, and would you like to, do a Zoom call? And what he forgets to tell everyone is the first time we Zoomed together, we were wearing the same shirt.
Oh, that is so funny.
So he was pointing at my shirt, and I was pointing at his shirt, and we were both like, oh my gosh, this is meant to be.
Yeah, there you go, and done.
So he was saying to me, you know what, these books aren't Hallmark books. These are like Netflix or Apple. If you wanna, I might know some people if you want to connect with them. And then he said, but you know what? If we own the idea, we would be able to sell these books, and it would be better for us to pitch them ourselves. He said, would you ever consider writing a book with me? And I'm like, as a matter of fact, I am writing a series. So that's how we got together. And the guy doesn't waste time. I mean, in 3 days, we were signing the contract.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And, he was excited about it. I was excited about it. It was COVID. So I think I really got lucky. I think I got blessed by just being in the right place at the right time.
Yeah. Wow. That is so fun. And the connection is still a little for me. I mean, somebody who knew Chris, it's just
walking
fun.
the dog. Yeah. So and and it's funny because Chris was so open with me, telling me exactly this is what you need, this is how how it goes and everything. And I'm like, you know what, this guy is just so genuine. I can trust him. I mean, and it's been that way ever since. And that was late March towards April.
Okay. So a year ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and if anybody, Chris, he's a great guy, and he's done 1 million Hallmark movies. So, I mean, how perfect, right?
Yeah.
He definitely knows that formula.
Well, I know. And while we were writing, I would ask him, is it too much? Is this too much? And he'll go, yeah, that's too much. Scale it down. Or he'll be like, no, it's not too much. It's fine. Because I had no idea, right? I mean, I'm not in his space. So I wouldn't know.
Yeah. So I thought I read somewhere that he might be producing the series for film. Is that correct?
Yeah, he does want to. So we're gonna go and make sure that we package it so that he's gonna be producing it, because he has his production company.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
He does. He has a new one. It's Podunk Productions, and I think he set it up last year as well. So, and he's this. I mean, he's really experienced with script.
Yeah.
And what people probably don't know about him is he's a really great writer.
I did not know that. It doesn't surprise me just because I know how entrenched she is in that world. So It doesn't surprise me because his performances are always amazing. But yeah, that's interesting. That I'm really looking forward to. I mean, obviously reading moments like this. as soon as it, midnight, I might be up. I'll be like, reading it on my phone in my bed.
It's an easy read. I think people will enjoy. It's a good break from everything going on around us.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Do you have an idea of where the series is going? Is it going to continue with Andy and Warren? Is it that kind of series? Or is it going to be a series where it's like The Friend or somebody in town? Or
Yeah, it's like we introduced these really amazing people in book 1, and every book will be in a different island. So the next one is Kauai. So we're already done. We're like 3/4 done with that. And this first one was in Oahu. The third one is in Molokai, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So we know the direction. So we created this world of characters, and each one will be interesting ones. I'll give you the link to the Facebook group, because there are people. I have a group for advanced readers, and they already are like in there, just saying like who they want the next book on, and it's spot on because we did pick those characters. But every book will have characters that we introduced in the first, and then on the 5th book we'll bring them all together. So you can see they're all standalones. They have their own ending, they have their own story, because I know how like some people, a lot of people wait for all 5 books to come out before they read them all, because they don't want cliffhangers, or they don't want to wait. So we made it such a way that you can even flip, like you can read one before the one out of order, because they're so separate. They're different stories.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's totally fun. I mean, I'm the type of person, when I love an author, I'm like, I'm buying that book on the release day or pre-ordering it. I will wait as long as I need to for the next book. But that's great to know.
What do you like to read?
I mean, I will be. So when I was younger, I was an avid like historical fiction or Christian fiction romance reader.
Yeah.
I mean, like Karen Kingsbury, I read like all her books, and Lori Wick and Robin Jones Gunn and Nicholas Sparks. So I loved all of that. But then I got bored because it was the same story over and over again. So I took a break, and then I was also busy with like college and writing, English papers and all of that. And then I kind of transitioned into more nonfiction in the last 10 years or so. So like business books or creative nonfiction, magazines, etc. But when last year hit with all that COVID stuff, I was talking to some friends, and I was like, oh, that sounds like a good book. I should read that. Oh, that one also sounds like a good book. And then I realized later on too, for the other podcast we do, I interviewed Rachel Fordham, who is she writes for Revel books. And I read her book, and I was like, oh my goodness, I forgot how good fiction can be. So it's been my goal since last summer, and then also into this year's, to transition back into reading more fiction. Because I think now people it's not as cliche. And that was one thing with her book. I did not see the ending coming. I was like, oh, okay. So, I mean, I'm very, very excited. I've started reading, I'm trying to read like classic books, like Emma is a book that I'm currently like reading through. And then of course there's your book that I have waiting on my Kindle, and I have a couple others. What is it? The one book by The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna. Yeah, is one that I just started too. So I like that.
You have such young kids. Like, how do you have time?
Oh, that's why it takes me a long time to read stuff. So usually it's at night, or I get it on Audible.
Yeah. They're beautiful kids, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. They're 5 and 3 years old. So
babies.
Yes, they're little ones. So, but yeah, that is very exciting. I have one other question about the books.
Sure.
With moments like this, when it will be a movie, fingers crossed. And if you had any pick of who you'd want to play Andy and Warren, do you have an idea of who you'd want to star as them?
Chris wants to be Warren.
Oh, okay.
And I agree with that. We're just going to have to maybe do a flashback or something. He's like, he thinks he's too old. I don't, but he wants to be Warren. And then we've like played around with a few like Asian American, because she's half Filipino.
Okay.
In the book. So we've played around with some Asian American names, but we haven't really like settled on one. It's hard to find.
Yeah.
But I know someone was saying Vanessa Hudgens would be perfect.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but then she's so young.
Yeah, that's true.
So we're playing around with it. But I know Chris would be the perfect Warren.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's exciting. I mean, I'm going to throw a name out there. She's also maybe for one of your other characters that could lead the next movie or so, if she's Filipino. Donna Benedicto. She is.
I've heard from her. I've heard about, like, is she in the States?
She's in Canada.
Okay.
She's in Canada. She's usually on the Hallmark movies. She's usually the best friend.
Okay.
But she's so funny. She's gorgeous. So funny. Very talented. She's young too. She's maybe in her she's maybe my age, like 30 or something like that. Or maybe, I don't know. Maybe she, we all look young until. But
thank goodness.
Yes. But yeah, she would be great for a lead, especially Filipino lead. We're all about that.
Follow her on Instagram, because what we're doing is we're following people on Instagram that we think could be inspirations for our stories. So I'll follow her. I'll search for her.
Yeah. Vanessa Lachey, I think, isn't she half?
She's half, yeah.
There's another idea. I don't know if she out of your reach.
I don't know if she's still acting or is she an actress?
I'm not sure.
Yeah. Yeah, she's cute.
Yeah. So that's fun. That's so fun. We're so looking forward to that. But yeah, this has been such a great discussion, and I loved hearing your journey. And best of luck. I mean, I cannot wait to get the book. It will be available anywhere books are sold, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
Any outlet and any platform that you guys want, it's going to be available.
Okay.
And I just wanted to say thank you for having me. I mean, I was just thrilled. Another Filipina bookstore owner is interviewing me next week. Like, I just love the way that we're all, that we're all being very visible about our culture. And I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes. That is definitely something that, I've wanted to do more of too, is just connect with others that are, because when you're Filipino, you're like family, and then incorporating it with my kids too, because they're half.
Yes.
But they call my mom Lola and like my dad Lolo.
Yes.
And so my sister-in-law, she was also born in the States. She got my kids the Filipino baby words book.
Oh, that's cute.
For Ilong.
Yeah.
Kili.
My kids probably know Kili. Yeah. And they also, my kids call ate, kuya. They still do that. So I thought it's the only thing they know, but they're not allowed to call first names. They call ate and kuya.
Yeah. My brother grew up calling me ate, so very, very used to that. All right. Okay, so our last segment here is just fun rapid fire questions. They're very random, and you don't have to think about them. So the first section is an either or type of section. Do you prefer reading fiction or nonfiction?
Fiction.
Okay. Library or bookstore?
Bookstore.
E-reader or physical book?
Hard one. I'm now used to e-reader.
They're convenient.
It's like my right limb. I never go anywhere without my Kindle.
Yeah. I have it on my phone. I have the app on my phone. So as I'm waiting in line or something, I'm scrolling. Yeah. When writing, computer or are you a pen and paper person?
Computer.
Oxford comma or no Oxford comma?
Oxford comma.
Okay. What time of day do you usually find yourself writing?
10 o'clock at night.
Okay. So you're a late owl writer. Yeah. Go
Well,
to
because I have a full-time job.
Oh, well, yeah. Yeah, I could relate to that.
Yes.
Although my other author friend Laura said, she's like, Kaycee, if you're gonna write, you gotta write early morning. It's a discipline and it's really, really hard, but
That's
the
true.
way to
There's
go.
a choice. You either work out or you write.
Yeah.
Normally I choose the other one.
Yeah. What is your go-to writing snack?
Chestnuts.
Oh, okay.
Castañas. Do you guys have that? Like, do you guys, I don't know. I used to eat that a lot in the Philippines and I eat it here.
Oh, I mean, if I've had it, it's been a very long time. Yeah. If you could pick, what is your favorite book or series?
I love a lot of books.
Yeah.
But I always say that my first favorite impactful book was The Thornbirds by Colleen McCullough.
Okay. Yeah. What are you reading right now?
Behind Her Eyes.
Okay.
It's a mystery. It's out on Netflix, but I wanted to read the book first.
Oh, okay.
I don't know the author. I don't know her well, but
yeah,
it's supposed to be it's a hit on Netflix if you go see it. And so I know it was written by an author who published it a few years ago, and so I decided to read the book first.
Yeah. Okay. So do you typically read the book first if you know it's coming out on film?
Yeah.
Okay. And are you a purist when it comes to stories?
That's loaded. Yes. Yes.
It's hard. It can be hard. It can be hard when sometimes it goes a different direction. Sometimes it's a good thing. And then sometimes you're like, but this was better in the book.
Yeah. I'll tell you, when we did the script for that one book that was optioned, I mean, I took that script and added stuff because the book had such nice lines and things that were impactful to readers that sometimes it gets skipped and doesn't end up in the movie.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah. Oh yeah. My all-time favorite series since childhood was Anne of Green Gables, books 1 through 8.
My daughter just watched that. Did you see the series?
So that's where I was going with that. The series is so different from the book. And I'm like, I have to just separate them. I just have to separate them.
Is it much more different? Because the series is like, I feel like it deviated a lot because it was kind of modernized in a way. Yeah.
Yes. And with the knee on Netflix, that's the series. Yes. It's very different. The core is there, like you have the Anne and Gilbert love story, but there are a lot of things that were missing. And I understand you want to make the storyline interesting. So sometimes it's allowed to bring in extra storylines or whatever. But I don't know. It's just different. But okay. So another question here on this little rapid fire. One piece of advice you'd give to a new writer.
Just keep writing.
Okay.
Just keep writing. Yeah.
Okay. And then your favorite Filipino dish. So we're all about the food.
Inihaw na baboy, which is, what is it? Grilled pork. The pork that they put in vinegar.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah, that can be very good. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm really bad about names of
What's
dishes.
your favorite?
Oh man. I mean, I love the basics. I mean, sinigang when it's cold. Pancit malol.
Yes.
My dad made it one year for New Year's Eve, and it was actually really cold here, and I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so good. Why have you never made this before?
So do they still cook that Filipino food a lot when you go visit or when you see them?
Sometimes it's mostly when we have gatherings because we live in the same town. They live like 10 minutes from me.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, my dad will fry up some lumpia when we have parties or for during Christmas or for my girls' birthday parties. Pancit mulo, regular pancit they'll have. Sinigang. Oh, puto.
Yeah, with butter.
Yes, and then with the little cheese.
With the queso de bola.
Yeah.
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 Great. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So it's fun. Sometimes because they're retired now, very freshly retired. My dad will sometimes just bring some food over. I'm like, are you bored? But that's good for us.
Yes, it's great.
Yeah. And my girls enjoy it too. So that's another nice thing of having them close by is they're not completely losing that part of themselves.
No, I agree.
So they're able to be cultured in that area and taste different foods and all of that. So
that's very important. So you should always keep that.
Yeah.
The world, the world has gotten so small. You can go anywhere and be, work anywhere. And so when the kids get older, that's really important for them to have that kind of global just viewpoint.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you again so much for coming on. Yes. Best of luck to you in your career. And we are looking forward to this whole series coming out. And especially I am so excited to read moments like this and see it turn into a film, hopefully in the near future.
Yes.
And all of that.
And thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed this. Thank you.
You're welcome. Where can people find you on social media?
At Ana Gomez Books in Twitter and Instagram. And then AnaGomezBooks.com for my website.
Awesome. All righty. Well, Hallmarkies, be sure to follow Anna and be sure to get her book. Well, thank you so much. Bye, Hallmarkies.
Bye, Hallmarkies. Bye, Kaycee.
Bye.
Thank you.